I've pondered a lot the idea of me posting this story, and based on the title, I'm sure you realize that this story is now closing in on 3 years old. However, I felt at this point that it is good to get this off my chest. At the time, I 30 years old male at the time was happily married to my 30 years old wife. We had been married around 6 years. I will refer to her from here on as Sarah, not her real name. We traveled, ate together, and spent time together basically every night for the first 6 years of the marriage. During 2019, I started to see some warning signs that, in retrospect, should have told me something was up. In early 2019, I had to be out of town for a work conference, the first time that I had ever been gone overnight from home without her. She immediately suggested that her friend might come visit and even stay over those days. Now, for context, this friend 29M, I will refer to him as Mark, is someone she texted all the time. They were close friends, and I know for a fact had been intimate with before we met. I put my foot down and said no, pointing out he never came over in 6 years, except the one time I was gone. While she got mad, she respected my wishes to the best of my knowledge and the scenes from the security cameras. There were other things as well that gave me pause, but for the interest of time, I will move on. Now we arrive at the end of 2019. As we are in a movie theater together, I notice her writing messages to someone on her Apple Watch during the movie. This was very unusual for her to do, and the messages, although I can't remember them, were a bit strong for a coworker at a new job, but nothing overtly sexual romantic. I ask her about it after the movie, and she brushes it off. Her behavior changes, sitting away from me on the couch, changing in a different room, and so on. I start to wonder, am I being cheated on, or what is being hidden from me? I feel tremendous guilt for even thinking about checking her phone for confirmation, feeling that if I do, and I am wrong, there's no point in continuing to be married. After thinking about it for days, I decide to check in January 2020. Now her phone is always close by, and I don't know the passcode. Luckily, her watch is accessible, and she made the code our anniversary. Irony abound. What I discover next is horrifying. Sarah and Mark discussing her hookups with a coworker, them mocking me for not noticing what is going on. Sarah discussing how the idea of me touching her is revolting, how she can't imagine having kids with me. We had been trying in mid-2019, so this especially hurt. Then I read the messages between Sarah and the coworker. We will call him Carl. Those messages are explicit, and Sarah shows more affection for him in every way than she shows me now. And each message tells me a new revelation that hurts more. That a trip she said was to console a friend was really so that the friend could meet Carl. That she began changing in the bathroom so I wouldn't see the hickeys on her body. That her therapist knows all of this and says I should be made aware, but that she should be happy with whoever. I stay up till 3 or 4 a.m. reading these messages and taking pictures of everything. I don't sleep that night. My jaw clenched so hard all night, it caused issues for months. We agree Sarah will move out of our house, and I even help her find an apartment. Anything to get her out of the house faster. One day in March 2020, I watched the news of the virus come in, and all construction work stops. Her apartment was almost ready, but was being renovated. Now there's nowhere for her to go. I'm stuck in the house with her from March to June of 2020. For those wondering, she has enough legal knowledge to know that leaving would make her case harder and might still have to pay expenses. Those 3 or so months were hell. Trying to do my job and live in a house with a person who had wronged me and ridiculed me was unbearable at times. We tried as best we could to keep it civil and not scream at each other every time we passed each other. Imagine spending 90+ days cooking meals, passing by, and seeing no one else in the world but the person who ended your marriage and broke your heart. Every day featured me essentially locking myself in a room for 8 hours, then doing yard work or working out to avoid speaking with her. She moved out for the most part in late June once the world started to open up a bit, and had all of her items out by July. Knowing that I wanted the house, she definitely manipulated the situation to her advantage to avoid her being publicly shamed. Her family to this day doesn't know what caused the divorce. She didn't tell them the divorce was happening at all till after the papers were signed, and essentially forced me to pretend we were still together until then, at which point I told her to tell her parents, or I would. They never asked me what was the cause, although 1 or 2 did wish me well. I never felt the need to tell them, as despite the pain and gaslighting she caused, I didn't feel the need to hurt them. Her parents never wronged me. Carl and Sarah didn't last. When I found out, Carl told her to leave me and be with him. But she tried to mend our relationship, and he walked away from her, so she ended up with no one. Sarah and I rarely speak now unless it's absolutely necessary, which is rare. I've wondered at times if maybe I was wrong for not publicly outing her infidelity. The people who are important to me know the truth. I also never confronted or spoke to, for that matter, Carl or Mark or her friend who knew about all of this but never warned me. As for me, I found someone who is truly a good person and have a great relationship. I've never told Sarah, as it's none of her business. Much like telling her family about her cheating, I thought about telling Sarah how well I'm doing, but I think that is just schadenfreude. Thanks for reading, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos.